Back in the 1970s, when diesel smoke hung in the morning air and every acre was turned by pure determination, a few tractors rose above the rest. Machines that didn't just work the land, they defined an era. Today, we're taking a trip down memory lane to look at 5 of the most reliable diesel tractors of the 1970s, the ones that built our farms, shaped our families, and are still turning heads half a century later. Let's start with a name that's practically written into the soil of America. John Deere 4430. There's something about the sound of a John Deere 4430 firing up on a cool spring morning that takes you right back. The deep rumble of that 404 cubic inch turbocharged diesel, it wasn't just noise. It was the heartbeat of American farming in the 1970s. When the 4430 rolled off the line in 1973, it wasn't just another tractor. It was John Deere's bold step into a new era. Farmers were demanding more comfort, more power, and machines that could handle longer days and bigger implements. Deere answered with something that changed the way folks thought about tractors. Under the hood, the 4430 packed around 125 horsepower, but it wasn't just the numbers that impressed people, it was how that power came alive. The 404 turbo diesel had a steady pull that didn't quit, whether you were plowing through heavy Iowa clay or pulling wagons up a muddy hill in Wisconsin. And it sipped fuel compared to the older gas models, which made a big difference when diesel was running under 50 cents a gallon. But what truly set the 4430 apart was that famous Soundguard cab. For the first time, farmers could work a 12-hour day without going home half-deaf and covered in dust. It was quiet, comfortable, and sealed tight, a small luxury that made a big impact. Many said it was the first tractor that made farming feel like driving a pickup truck. Then there was the PowerShift transmission, a feature that let you change gears smoothly on the go. For folks used to grinding through manual shifts, that was a game changer. It made the 4430 not just powerful, but practical. Everything about it was designed to keep you in the field longer and fix it faster if something went wrong. And that's the part old-timers love most. The 4430 was built tough, but simple enough to wrench on in your own shop. No computers, no fancy sensors, just solid American engineering. You could replace a clutch or rebuild the injection pump on a Saturday and be back in the field by Monday. Across the Midwest, these green and yellow workhorses became a familiar sight. In Minnesota, they pulled grain carts from sunrise to sunset. In Ohio and Illinois, they broke new ground season after season. Even today, you'll still find 4430s earning their keep, their paint faded, but their hearts strong. For many farmers, the 4430 wasn't just a machine, it was a partner. It hauled in the good years, and it kept on running through the tough ones. Fathers taught their sons to drive it, and now those sons are restoring the very same tractors for county fairs and tractor pulls. It's more than nostalgia, it's pride. Looking back, the John Deere 4430 didn't just define the 1970s, it defined what reliability meant to a generation of farmers. It was built to last, and it proved it. 50 years later, when one of these beauties roars to life, that sound still says one thing loud and clear: this is how America got the job done. And while the green and yellow color may have been iconic, another machine from the same decade was ready to challenge it head-on, with a whole lot of red power. International Harvester 1066. If you grew up anywhere near a cornfield in the 1970s, chances are you heard the deep, confident growl of an International Harvester 1066 rolling by. That sound, steady, powerful, unmistakable, was the sound of red power at work. The 1066 wasn't just another tractor, it was a statement from IH that they were ready to take on anything Deere could throw their way. Released in 1971, the 1066 packed a DT414 turbocharged diesel engine that cranked out around 125 horsepower at the drawbar, a serious number for its time. It wasn't flashy, but it was strong, reliable, and built to handle whatever the farm demanded. Whether you were chiseling plow in Illinois loam or pulling wagons through the rolling hills of Pennsylvania, the 1066 just kept digging in and asking for more. What made the 1066 stand out wasn't just raw power, it was how it delivered it. That big turbo diesel had torque you could feel in your chest, and it didn't lose its breath under load. Farmers loved that when things got tough, the 1066 didn't complain, it just dug deeper. And when you throttled down at the end of the day, you could almost feel it saying, "We did good." International Harvester also nailed the design from a farmer's standpoint. Everything was easy to reach, simple to fix, and tough enough to last. The transmission options, either 8-speed or 16-speed with torque amplifier, gave operators flexibility for all kinds of field work. And that big, red hood and squared-off cab gave it a commanding presence. It wasn't fancy, but it looked like business. Inside, the cab was, well, basic comfort by today's standards, but back then, having that much space, heat, and ventilation felt downright luxurious. And unlike some competitors, IH kept things mechanical, no overcomplicated systems that would sideline you when harvest was coming fast. Ask any old-timer, and they'll tell you the same story, the 1066 just wouldn't quit. Many of them logged over 10,000 hours without a major overhaul. The DT414 engine could take abuse, and the parts were simple, affordable, and easy to get. To this day, thousands of these tractors are still running across the Midwest, many with their second or third generation behind the wheel. But maybe the best thing about the 1066 is the pride it built. In towns across Iowa, Wisconsin, and Indiana, you'll still find bright red restorations gleaming at local fairs. Owners polish them like classic cars, not because they have to, but because they want to honor what that tractor meant. It represented hard work, good engineering, and a time when American farmers trusted their machines like family. For a lot of folks, the International Harvester 1066 isn't just a tractor, it's a reminder of when farming was about grit, muscle, and pride in your work. The red paint may have faded, but that spirit hasn't. 50 years later, when a 1066 fires up and that turbo starts to whistle, it still turns heads and brings a smile to anyone who remembers what red power really meant. And while International Harvester was flexing muscle, another American legend was quietly crafting a blue powerhouse of its own. Ford 8600. There's a special kind of pride that comes with a Ford tractor. The kind that says, "I'll get it done, no fuss, no bragging, just work." And in the 1970s, nothing embodied that blue-collar spirit better than the Ford 8600. Painted in that unmistakable shade of blue, it stood for toughness, simplicity, and the kind of reliability that made farmers nod and say, "Yep, that's a good one." Introduced in 1972, the Ford 8600 was part of the 8000 series that helped the company step into the high horsepower game. Under the hood sat a 401 cubic inch turbocharged diesel engine, pumping out around 110 horsepower at the PTO, steady, strong, and honest power. It wasn't the loudest or flashiest tractor in the field, but when it came time to work sunup to sundown, the 8600 showed up every time. What made this machine a farmer's favorite was how balanced it felt. The power came on smooth, the gears shifted clean, and the engine just kept pulling. And with the dual-power 16-speed transmission, operators could shift between high and low on the move, perfect for handling changes in terrain or load without losing momentum. It gave farmers a little more control, and a lot more confidence. Comfort-wise, the 8600 didn't have all the frills of the John Deere's Soundguard cab, but Ford gave it a roomy, practical operator station with good visibility all around. The controls were simple, labeled clearly, and right where your hands expected them to be. Everything about it felt straightforward, dependable, like a good pair of work boots. Maintenance was another reason folks loved the 8600. The engine and drivetrain were accessible and easy to service, even in the middle of a long harvest stretch. No special tools, no confusing electronics, just solid mechanical design. That simplicity meant these tractors often outlasted their owners' expectations. To this day, you'll find them in barns across Michigan and Indiana, still starting up with just a puff of blue smoke and a growl of that turbo diesel. The 8600 earned its reputation the hard way, by working through every kind of job you could throw at it. Tilling, hauling, baling, spreading, it didn't matter. If you needed muscle, the Ford delivered. And it didn't need pampering, just diesel, oil, and a farmer who knew how to listen to his machine. There's a certain kind of nostalgia that comes with the Ford 8600. For many families, it was their first big tractor, something powerful enough to take on the heavy work but still manageable and affordable. Fathers taught their sons to plow straight rows with it, and now, decades later, those same tractors are still rolling in parades and pulling wagons at county fairs. When you see one glinting in the sun, that bold blue paint a little faded, you can almost hear that turbo wind up and feel the ground tremble. It's a reminder of what made American farming great: hard work, honest machines, and pride in doing things the right way. The Ford 8600 wasn't fancy, but it was faithful. And sometimes, that's exactly what matters most. The blue paint may have faded, but the pride it represented never did. And for farmers who liked to stand apart, there was one tractor that wore a different color entirely, one that proved the Underdog could run with the big boys. Allis-Chalmers 190 XT. Every farming community had one, the guy who swore by his orange tractor. While most folks were running green or red, there was always that farmer who stood proudly beside his Allis-Chalmers 190 XT, knowing he didn't need to follow the crowd to get the job done. And truth be told, he was usually right. Introduced in the mid-1960s and running strong well into the 70s, the 190 XT wasn't just another model, it was a turning point for Allis-Chalmers. This machine proved that the company could go head-to-head with the big players like John Deere and International. Powered by a 301 cubic inch turbocharged diesel engine, the 190 XT put out roughly 93 to 100 horsepower at the drawbar, but it always felt like more. The way that engine pulled, it had grit. It didn't just move soil, it bit into it. What made farmers love the 190 XT was its power-to-weight ratio. It was lighter than many competitors but packed a serious punch, which meant better fuel economy and easier handling in the field. Whether you were plowing in Wisconsin clay or baling hay in Missouri heat, the 190 XT had the heart to push through long days without complaint. The transmission was simple, an 8-speed gearbox that was smooth and forgiving, and it just worked. Maintenance? You didn't need a mechanic degree. The layout was straightforward, the parts were accessible, and most repairs could be done in your own shed with basic tools. That's part of what gave the 190 XT its charm. It was a machine that respected the farmer's know-how. It also had a few forward-thinking touches for its time. The traction booster system helped transfer weight from the implement to the rear wheels, giving the tractor extra grip when the going got tough. That innovation, combined with the turbocharged punch, made it a favorite among farmers who liked to push their equipment hard. Sure, it wasn't the quietest ride in the world. The cab rattled a bit, and the seat wasn't exactly plush, but for the men and women who worked from dawn till dark, the 190 XT was like an old friend. You didn't love it because it was fancy. You loved it because it never quit. Allis-Chalmers might not have sold as many tractors as Deere or IH, but they built a loyal following that runs deep even today. Go to any antique tractor show in the Midwest, and you'll see those bright orange machines gleaming like fresh paint on a summer barn, still turning heads after half a century. For many, the 190 XT represents the spirit of the independent farmer. The one who believed in hard work over hype, practicality over prestige. It was a tractor built by people who knew farming from the inside out, and it shows in every bolt and weld. Even now, when that old turbo whistle cuts through the air, you can't help but smile. It's not just a sound, it's a memory. A reminder of when the work was hard, the tools were simple, and the reward was honest. The Allis-Chalmers 190 XT might have been the underdog of its era, but out in the fields of America, it earned something better than fame, respect. And as the 1970s rolled on, one more name joined the ranks of the reliable. It came dressed in deep red and silver, with a voice as smooth as it was strong. Massey Ferguson 1105. Released in the early 1970s, the 1105 came equipped with a Perkins 354 cubic inch turbocharged diesel engine that delivered around 105 horsepower at the PTO. Strong, smooth, and surprisingly efficient. It wasn't the biggest in its class, but it had one of the most reliable engines ever to grace an American farm. The Perkins was known for starting easy, running cool, and lasting a lifetime if you treated it right. Many farmers said you could almost set your watch to how steady that engine purred under load. The 1105 marked a new chapter for Massey Ferguson. It brought comfort and refinement into a world that, until then, was mostly grit and grease. The cab was quiet, sealed, and fitted with real suspension seating, something that made long days in the field a whole lot easier on the back. Add in great visibility and thoughtful control placement, and the 1105 quickly became a favorite for farmers who valued practicality but appreciated a little comfort too. But make no mistake, this tractor wasn't built just to look pretty. The multi-power transmission gave operators on-the-fly control between high and low ranges, making it versatile for any job, from heavy tillage in the morning to hay cutting in the afternoon. The hydraulics were responsive and dependable, perfect for handling three-point implements with ease. Massey had a reputation for smooth operation, and the 1105 kept that legacy alive. One of the reasons folks still talk about the 1105 is how well it aged. While some tractors from that era needed constant tinkering, the 1105 seemed to just keep going. Change the oil, keep diesel in the tank, and it would be ready every time you turned the key. Even after decades, many of these machines still start up with that distinctive Perkins growl, steady, proud, and ready for another day's work. You could find them all across the Midwest and beyond, from the rolling fields of Pennsylvania to the dairy farms of Michigan. Farmers loved that it was easy to service and parts were widely available. It didn't matter if you were a big operation or a small family farm, the Massey 1105 fit right in. And there's something about that red paint that still stirs a little emotion. Maybe it's the memory of your father's calloused hands on the steering wheel, or the smell of diesel and cut hay on a summer afternoon. Maybe it's just the pride of owning a machine that never let you down. Whatever it is, the 1105 has a way of bringing those memories back like they were yesterday. Today, when collectors restore them, they do it with care, because the Massey Ferguson 1105 wasn't just another tractor. It was a symbol of a time when craftsmanship mattered, when reliability wasn't a slogan but a promise. It was the kind of tractor that didn't need to prove itself, it already had. So when that red beauty rolls by at a county fair, shining in the sun, folks stop and smile. They know exactly what they're looking at, a true classic. The Massey Ferguson 1105, steady, strong, and built with heart. Five tractors. Five legends. They remind us of a time when farming was hands-on, engines were mechanical, and every bolt told a story. These weren't just tractors, they were partners, teachers, and a piece of American heritage that still rumbles strong today. Which one was your favorite back in the day? Or maybe you're still running one right now. Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this ride through the golden age of diesel power, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more classic tractor stories every week.